Only way to start your
7
day.
minutes after 8, we're on to the third hour of the Situation Room. Happy Wednesday if you're just joining us either on Spice FM or on KTN Home, or if you're joining us online on YouTube or Facebook, watching us live or catching up with the recording much later. Karibu sana, and thank you for keeping it locked. Do you have something like 50,000 shillings and above, and you're looking at how you can grow the value of this money? Well, walk to Kingdom Bank anywhere in the country and ask them, Ebu, tell me how I can songa mbele na Kingdom Bank. And they will tell you, they'll help you, because what they have is a program where you put in money in either a fixed deposit account, in a savings account, or you can also open a junior savings account. It'll earn you up to 10% interest. It's a good thing, isn't it? All you need to do is walk into Kingdom Bank, or you can call them on 0709 881300. That's 0709 881300. City, I want to tell you a story.
Tell me a story.
Sometime in 1999, a little bit of history was written.
Or thereabouts.
Or thereabouts. Okay? Specifically in December 1999. Kenya's first vernacular radio station went on air. Yeah. It was a Kikuyu station. It was called Kame FM. You know the principal behind it, Rose Kimodo. She started this station, thought about it. Let's go vernacular 24 hours. Had never been heard of before. Yeah. So this was the first time. So she thought, and she went and, got the frequencies, got everything ready, invested in it. And she now still needed to bring in people to run this station. So the first person that she thought of was somebody who could manage the station. Okay, put together the programming, recruit the best talent, manage the best talent and train them, and show them how to do it. She walked to Capital FM. Capital, right?
Pale ulikuwa unafanya kazi. Okay.
And she poached from Capital.
She invited.
She could only manage to poach one. This one happened to have been the best.
Yes.
When she was at Capital, she was called Shiro.
Yes.
She was a presenter, and she worked there. And then she joined Kame FM with Rose Kimodo. And she was given the brilliant dream and ideas, and she was like, I want to be part of this. So when Jiro Gekonyo was the program's controller at Capital FM, at Kame FM, she put together the programming, what needs to happen, at what time, what kind of music do we play, so who goes on air, who are the presenters. Went into the market and looked for brilliant young people who could speak very good Kikuyu and sound very well, and she identified several of them. One of them was given a mid-morning show. A young girl in university, doing her first degree at the University of Nairobi. Her name was Githunguri wa Muchomba. She's our guest this hour. Okay? The other thing that also Wanjiru wanted to do is make sure that she has the support on the technical side that could help run the station. So she crossed over to Family FM and poached a producer to come in and do fundi wa mitambo thing.
Brilliant young producer.
Upload the music into the system. Understand the technical workings, train the presenters who were joining in on how to run the desk and how to run the station, help with the programming and making the promos.
The suspense is killing me.
Yeah. Eric Latin.
Well embellished, but a very exciting time. And at that time, people thought Kikuyu, vernacular stations were very, were not serious. They were vernacular. They were alternative. And Kameme, because of the talents of Githunguri wa Muchomba, actually just, it was a big storm. Sponsors were excited.
Oh, yeah.
Listeners were excited.
Yeah.
The team behind were brilliant. It was a very vibrant.
But
vibrant
for
time.
someone who doesn't speak the language, but someone who heard of it, I don't think the storm is something in the past. It's, as I said earlier, present continuous.
Present continuous.
Yes, because you got to know Kame FM whether you wanted to or not. Yes, and then someone like I, who is a music lover, you got to love the music and know artists whom you'd never heard of. So, yes, this celebration is a good one.
It is.
The trio who were there at the birth and who made Well, Kame is a living legend.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're having a reunion moment here in the studio. You know?
Right.
The three of us are meeting again.
Yeah.
I think for the first time since the early 2000s in a studio.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is,
I think so.
And thank you for that full disclosure. So
Sendido.
should we collude and take all the same side, it could be traced back to having worked together.
But it's very hard for us to collude based on where we are coming from.
Exactly. Unlikely to happen.
Yes.
Githunguri Muchomba, the Member of Parliament for Githunguri Constituency, in her second term in Parliament. The first term she was representing the people of Kiambu County, and now you're in second term.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Humbled. Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
I continuously listen to you. You've just hooked me into this station. And like what you've just given as a preamble, having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content. I mean, it's just the best in the morning.
Well done to
It's the
this
best you
team.
can ever have in the morning. And congratulations.
Asante.
Yeah.
Asante and karibu sana.
Yeah.
And Eric, could you allow me to, before you get into the issues, to one, acknowledge that you're one of the few chairs of committees in Parliament. And we should also appreciate the fact that you raised concerns that women were not given, there's a kind of hierarchy in these committees, and women were given, it's a very important committee that you lead, but women also needed to have been faced in the larger committees, and well done for raising that issue.
Thank you.
Promises were made. The gender struggle still continues.
Yes.
And still needs to be fought.
And
Yeah.
we will keep following up on that. So Gathoni is the chair of the
Yeah.
Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee of the National Assembly. You're here today because there's something that you've been raising in Parliament and outside Parliament. The issue of, as we go into these, bipartisan talks, can we also talk about equitable distribution of resources? And you say the one man, one vote, one shilling conversation needs to come up, and let's discuss that. But to welcome you to the show,
Thank you.
Seti has the day's proverb.
Yes, in fact, this is really interesting because the proverb for today from Côte d'Ivoire is 2 flavors confuse the palate. But here in the studio, we have 3 flavors. Yes. so how confused will the palate be?
First of all,
Identify the flavors so we can all be on the same page.
Mheshimiwa, freedom fighter, the man in the chair. The 3 flavors.
Freedom fighter.
Yes.
freedom fighter is Chiro.
Yes, I have no doubt. I'm hoping we're all freedom fighters at the core. Modern day.
Oh, modern
No,
day.
modern day.
Contemporary.
Yes.
Even the dreadlocks are they're modern day dreadlocks. Can you see?
We have to fight for the total liberation of our country,
Right.
and work with all those who are of like mind.
Agreed.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Gathoni,
Yes.
why did you decide to start this conversation about one man, one vote, one shilling? And what's it all about?
I don't think I started. I just picked it up from where we left. Because, of course, we've been having this kind of discussions in Parliament where we feel like there are some communities that have more opportunities than others when it comes to the sharing of the national cake. Allow me first, before I discuss the one man, one shilling issue, to just highlight on something Shiro had said previously in the show. I think you're discussing about this whole thing of horror in Shakahola. And it's sickening to just watch TVs and listen to radios on what is happening. But unfortunately, there's a big question we're asking. Where was the police? Where was NIS? I mean, this forest is in Kenya, within the boundaries of Kenya. Where was NIS? But unfortunately, our NIS and our police force and our security, we have capitalized so much on the gun and the bullets, the walls of the prisons and the cells, the corridors of magistrates and judges, and we have ignored the social aspect of life in Kenya. And there's so many ills that are happening around the social welfare of our people, but we don't have anybody to police it. We don't have a social welfare policing in Kenya. And it is sad and sickening that this girl who just killed her child and ate up the body in Kitengela, instead of taking her to for medication, for healthcare intervention, we're actually locking her against the walls, the four walls of the cells. Are we doing justice to her? And many other cases like that. Yesterday, a parent called me from my constituency in Githunguri, the great constituency that I represent. And she told me she has a neighbor who has been a serial offender in raping children. And every time this man is arrested with clear evidence, he's released because he's mentally not okay. And now the parent was asking me, he has already done that to 2 children, defiled them, messed up their lives completely. Like one case, it was very, very, very greasy. And are we waiting for him to rape the 3rd child so that we can now decide to take him to Mathare or to take him wherever? Yeah. So there is a gap. And I had somebody, I think it's City, who said, leaders. Please stop talking about leaders. We are also victims. Yeah, it's not a problem of leadership. It's a problem of all of us. We just need to get to this national conversation about our social welfare. We have invested in the police, like I've said. We have militarized everything. We have securitized everything. But that social aspect of it is missing. We've got so many people who are in the police force with uniforms, but they are sick. Right now, we are fighting illicit alcohol and substance abuse in our backyards, like in Central. But I can tell you, shockingly, when I was a woman representative for Kiambu, because I ran a rehab, the many professionals that are sick mentally, the numbers are alarming. So I think as a leader, it's my duty, whenever I get a platform like this one, to air out our frustrations. Because, for example, the lady who called me yesterday from my constituency, who is my voter, believes that I can give her a solution. But where do I get the solution? If I go and get this guy, what laws protects him against me picking him and taking him to Mathare? And when they take him to Mathare, who's going to pay the bills? We have commercialized our healthcare in this country. So much commercialized that I cannot take a patient to any hospital without depositing some fair amount of money for me to be able to help this gentleman. Fine, he's sick and he needs help, but who is to help? So I think that's something maybe as a show you can pick it up, maybe call the relevant people, including myself as a leader, and let's have this national conversation, because things are getting out of hand. I'm sorry for derailing you, but I thought
it's a very good thing that you raised.
That we need to.
We want to send you to Parliament, Mheshimiwa, to speak to the chair of the committee that's in charge of health. You can, now that every Wednesday you have a CS coming. Yeah. The day the CS for health comes before that house, the first question she should answer is, the Ministry of Health, the Minister for Health, set up a task force to look at the mental well-being of Kenyans. That task force presented a report back to the Minister for Health. And the top recommendation was declare mental health a national disaster.
Thank you.
Okay? It has never been done. So ask that first question.
Yeah.
And then secondly, because once it's been done that, then the second thing would be, what are the programs that they're putting in place to address this national disaster?
But I think
without that, then we are going...
Even before we seek to declare mental health a national disaster, I think there are things that we have failed. There's so many gaps that we have not been able to fill, because the laws are there. It's only that we do not want to, one, fund towards the implementation of that law.
Yes.
And two, implementation. Equipping ourselves towards implementation. Yeah. Because what would make Mathare Hospital take care of such cases if we stopped the commercialization aspect of it? About 3 years ago, I rescued a mad woman. Those women who roam in the shopping centers naked. I felt like as a woman I should rescue. I rescued a mad woman and her son. I actually adopted the son. He lived in my house for about 4 years. And I can tell you the pain I went through taking care of this mad woman to recovery, the journey to recovery, because she finally recovered. It took me 4 years. I spent almost 2 million shillings. And that was a public facility that I was spending that amount of money.
What?
Yes. So if I am a leader, I am blessed with resources and I can afford to do this. How many families can afford to do what I did?
Okay.
So I think...
Did you take that matter up in Parliament?
Yes, I did.
So what are the gaps? What are the financing gaps? Is it a policy issue? Is it a program issue? Is it a budget issue?
It's a budget issue.
If it's a budget issue, then as Parliament, you're a budget-making Parliament. What are the solutions?
I heard you say we have no money to budget. We are budgeting what we don't even have.
Actually, what we said,
previously this show, I heard you say.
No, what we said is that the priorities
are
wrong.
Yeah.
And that money is going towards expenditures at the expense of the social. Privatization, like you're talking about mental health facilities, public facilities not being affordable, that's a privatization aspect.
Yeah.
So the priorities are wrong. So one, we don't have the social policy. Then the prioritization, the little money we have, where is it going? And of course, then governance, because we are losing a lot to governance that needs to come back to fund these very important aspects.
If you ask me, from where I come from my experience being in Parliament now for the 6th year, I think, I don't want to say that Parliament is a wrong body to do budgeting, but you can't mix money issues with politics and get it right.
Something will go wrong.
Yeah. And that's our problem.
So the politics is derailing us.
Problem. Because I will go there and say, we need to prioritize mental health and we need to give this budget. And then after I'm done with my budget at my committee level, for example, and hand over my budget to another department that has some influence with politics and there were some priorities that were politicized and need to be given the first priority, my budget will be slashed. In fact, the whole of yesterday, can I tell you, I spent the whole of yesterday fighting for my budgets. I will not disclose which ones because I don't want to spill the beans before. But yesterday, somebody just took a pen and a paper and slashed off my budget of a project that I pledged to my people in front of the president, in front of the deputy president. And somebody just takes the pen and slashed off. That's politics. So it is very difficult for us to balance and do what you're saying, the priority projects, because the formula is not workable. We have to decide. Our work is politics. Somebody else has to do the budgets for us. Or we are the budgeting, but it's not possible for politicians to keep off politics. Countries that do well in budgeting, the David D's of this world are the people who sit down and say, this is the way to go. But D's comes on TV and says, we are doing this as Kenya Kwanza. We are doing this as Kenya Kwanza. But he's not going to take the pen and give us the budget in Parliament.
So essentially what we're saying is that
it's rhetoric.
Yeah, there's clouded vision here because then it is not possible to see the social side of things. It's not possible then to see that mental health in Kenya is a problem that's affecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things. That a situation that has taken the whole country by storm for the last 1 week in Kilifi County is not going to be seen as a priority to be dealt with in other areas because people are worrying about which side of the political divide they must pander to. And then this is a very sad thing then because we're talking about many issues that ought to be dealt with. Here we are talking about bipartisan talks, 1 shilling, 1 man, 1 vote. But people are going to not vote because they're necessarily interested in how we're going to take resources down to the people, but they're more interested in political expediency and how I'm going to come back next time. Cannot run a country like that.
Formula that I'm saying that's a problem. It's like I am the chef. I come up with the ingredients, but I have to hand over my ingredients to somebody else in the kitchen to cook for me. Mm-hmm. And we'll oversalt. You'll overcook, and that's not was my intention. Mm-hmm. That's the formula we have. We have to decide that this budgeting process is so important for this country, and sober minds must be trusted to make the budgets for us. Sober minds.
Can I ask, Mheshimiwa, is that question part of the national dialogue? Because one way or the other, we are at a point of whether it's a bilateral or a national dialogue, some of us favor the latter. There are issues that ail us.
Yes.
That we must address.
Yeah.
Is this one of the issues that has been identified, or are politicians still looking minimally at power sharing?
Unfortunately, the issues on the table, and that's why I'm here, to speak about the issues that really, to me, matters. The issues at the table right now is who is going to get this office? I mean, what position am I going to get out of this whole bipartisan talk? I mean, to me, what is important is, at the end of the day right now, our economy is shaky. I heard you discuss matters money here.
It's on its knees.
We should be sitting on that table to discuss how are we gonna raise our living standards, the revenues that we are collecting. How are you going to seal the loopholes of some projects that are now going to become ghost projects because they're not going to be completed, yet they were started and budgets were committed. But to sit on the table to discuss who's gonna be the leader of that, the office of this, I think we are getting it wrong. And that is what I said. It's politics. The bipartisan talk is totally 100% politics. It's got nothing to do with that jama I'm seeing on the sufuria on the head. I mean, thinking that this bipartisan is going to give them ugali. Nothing. No ugali on the way. I mean, and we should stop using our voters. We misuse them. I mean, the whole of this, if you ask me, it's all about 2-3 people. Absolutely. Yeah? But we are using the hunger, the lack of food, as
currency
for you know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I am that honest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I am on record. I said somewhere in a public meeting that if really we are to be engaged in this bipartisan talk, and I said I would want to be a committee if you're going to discuss on 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, because that's what's ailing my voters. That's what's pushing my voters. That's what really I feel is an issue that my voter would love to see their MP discuss, but not go and discuss those issues like I have mentioned. So let's go to the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote.
Let's get there. Let's first of all take a break. Let's look at traffic. The Honorable Muthoni Muchomba is the MP for Githunguri Constituency. She's the chair of the Committee on the Constitution Implementation and Oversight Committee. Okay. Sasa hiyo mambo yote. She's the one who we are asking 13 years down the road implementing this constitution. We don't even have a consolidated fund. And you're talking about 1 man, 1 vote, all those issues. Let's talk about that after we take this break. Have you called the number for Centum? Because I've been giving you that number for Centum really and telling you, if you call them, then you can get into the journey towards owning a home at Vipingo Development in Kilifi County. Call them on 0740 400 215. That's 0740 400 215, or SMS the word Vipingo to 22365. Some beautiful apartments and bungalows coming up, and they say for as low as 1.98 million shillings, you can actually start owning an apartment. You need to put a deposit of 198,000 shillings, and then the rest, discuss a payment plan with them. City, it's that week. We're calling it the National World Immunization.
UNICEF National World Immunization Week. Okay. And the Ministry of Health, together with its partners, and the partners here are WHO and UNICEF, they are continuing with their efforts to primarily really just save lives through vaccines. And the message is vaccines save lives. Vaccines are safe, they're effective, and they are free of charge. Note, underlined in red, they are free of charge in all government health facilities. Vaccines provide immunity and protect those who are immunized. But you must complete the vaccination process, okay? Now, that is something simple, straightforward, and clear.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue voicing this message the whole of this week.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Let's take a look at the traffic. The conversation continues. This.
Let's go!
Can no one tell me a good story?
Nash saves the day.
That's cool!
If you think that's interesting, wait till you see this.
Boy Robo to the rescue! There's a living dinosaur in the woods! That was awesome!
We start your day with a good gospel vibe.
Are you ready to dance? Yeah.
We keep it fresh.
Nashukuru, nashukuru, yeah. Nashukuru, nashukuru.
We nourish your spirit Monday to Friday, only on Tendereza.
Constituency Development Fund, and the women reps are also patrons of the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. And members who come from areas where there's more population, like myself, find it very difficult to share out these resources compared to members who come from areas that are sparsely populated. And therefore, this we feel is kind of a discriminative platform, and we need it reviewed so that we can equalize everyone. We also need to look at the power of representation in the same area, because it's not fair for a constituency that has over 700,000 voters to have one member of parliament and also have one vote whenever it comes to making decisions at the platform of both the National Assembly and the National Senate. And therefore, we feel it is important we either come up with a super constituency where a member of such a constituency get power to vote twice or thrice, but gets the same salary for one member of parliament, noting that we are pressed when it comes to, wage bill, but also give the members fair representation. There are also wards, like in my constituency, we have a ward that has a population that is equivalent to a whole constituency, but it is a ward, and it is represented by one MCA. So when it comes to fair representation, you can imagine the people who come from that ward who want to see their MCA, how many can access to the MCA? If a ward has 38,000 voters, and they only have one MCA, and the MCA has a small cubicle called office, and he needs to see all those people because of the needs of representation. So that is what is informing us that we need now to have a national conversation and get to know which criteria do we use. And by the way, I'm sure I'm not the only one who is talking about one man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. We have quite a number of MPs. I think I have counted, there are about 17 MPs now who have gone public talking about the need to have this national conversation. It's not that we want to take everything to ourselves in our backyard for those who come from densely populated areas, but we think this is a national conversation that we need to come up with so that we can finally agree. Which is that can equate us? What formula can equate us? Can make me feel like I'm fairly getting what I'm supposed to be getting. So let's concentrate on the CDF. I thought, as a member of parliament, and as a second-time a member of parliament, I have an opportunity to amend the Constituency Development Fund Act so that we can be allowed to have a baseline population that we can, use. Baseline, I mean the minimum quotient that we can use as a baseline for any constituency for us to get the smallest devolved units within the constituency to be used to allocate funds. Right now, the CDF Act, we use the smallest devolved unit is the ward. So we need to define that smallest devolved unit called ward. What is the minimum it can have? So for any ward that has more than the baseline that we shall come up with, then we allocate funds equivalent to the numbers they are in. That way, constituencies that have more population, if we use a baseline of number of people and we come up with a certain figure, the constituencies that have more population, we end up getting more wards based on the population. And those units then dictate how much money we can get, we can receive.
Just like
that way, we'll be able to increase the amount of money that is going to the most densely populated areas.
Just like you're saying, you're not the first ones. There are others who've put forth this argument previously. Some who are even governors today. And have said, look, it doesn't make sense that we have such high populations and then we're getting the same, if not less, in some parts than others who have more in terms of, or rather who have less in terms of population. The question is the justification for this resource, one, and how exactly is it translated? So walk us through these monies that are being asked for that would then come at whatever level. What are they used for, so that folks can understand when you're asking for 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, where does this money go? And there's a reason why I'm asking.
Okay. I guess your listeners are wondering when you say, what are these monies for? Wondering whether you live in Kenya. Because if you do live in Kenya, then you do know that we have commercialized every service in Kenya. Education is commercialized. In theory, we say it is free, but it's never free. I mean, we said secondary school is free, day school, but we still are paying over 11,000 per year Yet it is supposed to be free. So let me speak from where I'm coming from. From the CDF perspective, the money that is actually pressing us and giving us a lot of pressure is the bursary allocation, where in my constituency, the much I can afford to give to a child who is in day school is 3,000. Yet there are constituencies that are giving, they can afford to give 100,000, even 70,000
to
per
one
child. Yes.
Yeah.
And I am sure this is on record. It's not an allegation. So my voters wonder, what is it that we did that we cannot get more than 3,000? By the way, you should see the faces of my voters when they are receiving the 3,000 checks. They are overexcited. They wait for the check the whole day because of the processes. You know, these are government fund. You have to follow the rules and the procedures and the steps they are in. And therefore, we feel it's unfair. I mean, when I read social media and I see a child in certain constituencies posting a check of 170,000 bursary allocation against my 3,000 shillings, and by the way, I'm doing very well. Giving 3,000, I'm doing very well. There are constituencies that are giving 1,000. Roiro constituency, the much they could have afforded to give per child based on the needs was 772 shillings.
What?
Yes. That's a match Roiro constituency could have afforded. I mean, is it fair for that Roiro voter getting 770 shillings against a voter who is getting 170,000?
Yeah.
It's not fair. So we are saying, can we start from where we can afford? CDF, bursary allocation. We either come up with the minimum population per ward as the smallest devolved unit, define that unit and say, for any ward to survive, it has to have this amount of people or many people. From there, we allocate funds for bursary. Or we come up with a standard regulation and say, any child in Kenya receiving bursary, the allocation will be standard. Uniform. Say, every child is entitled to get 3,000. All right?
Across board.
Across board. But I have a problem. A big problem, like I started in the onset of this show. The minute we mix politics with budgets, we lose it. Because I don't even understand why we have bursaries. Why do we have bursaries?
That's the question I was about to ask you.
Why is it such a big
We have
issue?
two
Why
things.
do we have bursaries? If the government was
Every
giving
child in
us...
Kenya today receives a capitation from the Ministry of Education, which is uniform. If there's capitation for primary school, X amount of money is going for every child. Whether you are in a Nairobi school, in a in Kiambu school, in a Garissa school, in a Lamu school, right? Why do we need bursary? Why not? Why can't you champion then for this, for your constituencies, about 40 million shillings? Well, for all constituencies, it's capped at 35%, is it? Why don't you just say that 35%, whatever amount it comes to, let it go to the Ministry of Education, and then you oversight how the ministry is spending that money.
The problem is the efficiencies and the effectiveness therein in government procedures. Can I
explain?
Can I explain?
Yes.
I am not so sure whether that capitation money gets to every child in my constituency. I called my principals and chairs of BOM about last week on Wednesday, and I was shocked that there are some chairs of BOMs and principals of schools who do not know yet how much capitation money they have received. Because even the transparency of those accounts are questionable. I mean, I'm a principal of a school, and I don't know how much my school is getting in terms of capitation.
Why?
That was the day I saw the head of education read those lists, and every principal was like, oh. So if we cannot actually even know what's going on, I mean, the processes are just wrong.
Why don't they know?
Can I continue with this? Because it is very important. When I was a county woman MP for Kiambu County, as a woman rep, as popularly known as, we had an allocation of 500 million allocated to us women reps, but through Ministry of Education, to supply sanitary towels to all schools, public schools. I've never done a painful exercise than that one. A very painful exercise where I went into a school and asked, where are your allocations? I mean, where are the sanitary towels? Yet every school was allocated sanitary towels. And in some schools, they disappeared. The girls never got them. I got myself fighting with a lot of head teachers. Ministry of Education, asking questions that had no answers. Even today, no answers. So if we trust that those are the people we are going to give 100% of capitation, then we are wrong. The only person who can be trusted with resources is a politician, because and I will justify.
They're directly accountable.
Not directly accountable, because I'm actually not accountable to CTF, because I'm not an accounting officer. But it's like an exchange. It's like an exchange. I give you this because I want to make my name better for you to give me votes next time.
But Mheshimiwa,
so the only people who delivered sanitary towels for the last 5 years during Magoha's and Matiangi's Ministry of Education regime are the women reps. When they were given the sanitary towels to go and distribute in schools, that is the only time the sanitary towels were visible.
Yes.
Because the woman rep want to be visible and want to make sure that they have delivered, they've taken the photos, and they have records of what they've done.
Yes. But using your own opening statement that budgets and politics don't mix.
Yes.
The moment you're giving the budget to the Mheshimiwa to deliver, because the formal government process is not
failed.
delivering, you then have a conflict when it comes to oversight.
I agree, 100%.
So there's a missing link in all of this, which is the public. Because our systems don't work. And you even use those words. You use the word transparency.
Yes.
You use the word accountability.
Yes.
We haven't built in or operationalized those structures.
Yes.
They exist in law because you're supposed to have the bottom-up accountability mechanism. Empower the citizen. Do the civic education because we've lost our value foundations. Right now, citizens are not necessarily the most accountable. You have to go back and actually say accountability works. Keep an eye on your resources when they come. Make sure the disbursements are done properly, so that you don't have, the bad manners that we are seeing in government are also percolating down to the citizens. So we need to operationalize that. The other thing you talked about, you need to have a proper policy framework. Because we must recognize there are parts of this country that have been historically marginalized. And it's only in the last 10 years that these parts of this country actually have become a part of Kenya. And the students and the young people from this country are able to enjoy the same access to education, beginning to enjoy access to health, because resources have devolved. So it's not a perfect system, but there is a principle that must never be lost, which is the principle of inclusion. So yes, we need to look at the allocations. CDF is very different from counties, and we can't. I think there are lessons from CDF from the division of revenue and the sharing, but a county government, unlike CDF, which is a more direct fund, a county government deals very holistically, and the functions are, they are dealing with maintaining a government, a county civil service for all intents and purposes. They have a county assembly. So the administrative burden on counties cannot be equated to the CDF.
Okay.
The last point is one of the weaknesses with sharing of revenue is that the urban factor has been ignored. So that urban centers, because if you look at Kiambu County, which actually should be organizing itself so that even the status of the county can be elevated, as has been done with Nakuru and Kisumu and all, there is supposed to be an urban an urban fund, so that you take care of high population centers or counties because of the special needs that they have. Okay. As opposed to saying, let us go the one person, 1 shilling, 1 vote, because that will work against some of the far-flung areas. Their infrastructure outlay is humongous just because of the how wide, the geographic spread. The historical issues still haven't been addressed because the equalization grant has not been disbursed, is also not really quite a big kitty that can put parts of the country on par. So there are many dimensions.
No,
and I would argue,
for me,
I agree that there should be a dialogue, but let us agree what do we want to come out of the dialogue, as opposed to locking to one position that it has to be about population.
It has to be about population, Shiro, because at the end of the day, this government and the economic and political setup is all around the power of votes. It's all about the power of votes. So it is not right for us to be the biggest basket in terms of votes, but we become the smallest basket in terms of the share. That we must agree. Number two, we must agree that our constitution declares the people of Kenya as sovereign. I mean, people are sovereign. Resources should revolve around them, and they should feel fairly taken care of. We feel the pressure, Shiro. For example, in Kiambu County, and I'm glad that my colleague was here yesterday, Gigi Kagombe from Gatundu South, and I echo what he's talking about even in schools. We are the dormitory of Nairobi, for example, Kiambu. We house everybody who is working in Nairobi. Pressure is on us on sewerage system, on water, on electricity. But when it comes to the sharing of that resource to boost and up our services, then we feel that we are being discriminated against.
Yes.
So it is time now we have this national discussion, so that those that are arguing that they come from sparsely sparsely populated area, but they have vast land, against us who are saying we are coming from these very densely populated areas. Where can we meet? We must have this national dialogue. Where can we meet? But I don't like it when people gag me. I don't like it when people start reminding me of my political party. I don't like it when people start telling telling me where I'm coming from. I mean, where I'm coming from is none of the business. And I want to talk to the people who are actually blaming those that are talking about 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, accusing us of dragging BBI into the Kenya Kwanza government. I want to talk to them.
Talk.
I want to talk to them because if you don't believe in 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, which was on a proposal within BBI, then you should not even believe in housing, because low housing was a mantra that was led by the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. If you are going on with affordable housing, then you are also working on what Uhuru Kenyatta left. If you're finishing unfinished projects like Mau Mau project, they were Uhuru Kenyatta's flagship projects. If you're finishing them, then it means you believe in what Uhuru Kenyatta proposed. If you're working on universal health care and you want to put more budget and finish and accomplish and achieve, then you're also taking over Uhuru Kenyatta's mantras. So you can't come and put me in the cage and tell me, Githunguri, stop talking about 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, because this was Uhuru Kenyatta's. If we achieve this 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote share, is it Uhuru Kenyatta who is going to benefit, or it is our people from the Mount Kenya region? We need to sober up. And I don't want to be gagged. I do not want to be told that I belong to this political party and the party is not saying this, because I went to my people and I convinced them that Kenya Kwanza government is a good government. I mean, it's going to be good government, and it is government of the people. And when I go to parliament to do what I'm supposed to do, I have actually proposed a law. That is my mandate as a member of parliament. I have gone to parliament to do what I'm supposed to do. And I have written to the speaker. And the speaker has my letter. And there are many others who have also proposed other formulas. Let all the formulas be put on the table. Let us have a national dialogue. And let us agree on the way forward.
Mheshimiwa, I've been listening to you, and I like what I'm hearing. There's no question that you are passionate about the people you represent. You actually want to see good done by them. But I also hear you to be saying that the parliament you belong to is unable to oversight. And because they're unable to oversight, when it comes to some of these divisions of the monies that are supposed to benefit our collective population and peoples, we must look at other ways of divvying it up other than through the channels we have. And you propose politicians are good, and I agree with you, they are, because they are vested in the population. In the absence of the population, they do not really have any bearing. But Mheshimiwa, even as I listen and as I agree with you, there's a dishonesty that you've highlighted. And the dishonesty is that governments are continuums. People take credit for what has happened and what is good, but in most cases, somebody else started it. And you've highlighted it beautifully. Roads, SGR, those were Kibaki government things. But that's how governments work. So are we saying that the leaders we elect, you are going to explain to us what happens when you get in that house? Because the people we know and the people we then get to know once they get in, something happens. The honest conversations that can genuinely bring about the changes that all members of parliament propose to bring to their people. Is it not possible for people to put their so-called party affiliations aside, and on issues such as the one you're talking about, the one person, one vote, one shilling, a very sensible suggestion. I wonder why people argue against it when, in my mind, it is so clear and so obviously clear that it's a sensible thing. It's inclusive, and it brings about equitability at a level that you cannot argue against. Why are you people incapable of doing this? Because I'm hearing you say you have colleagues who will. Can't they see these things?
They can see, but of course, like I said, they are politicians and they come from political parties that have their own positions on issues. I know there are things called PG, parliamentary groups meetings, where the party leader will call you and tell you, I know you believe in one man, one shilling, one vote, or I know you believe in 1, 2, 3, but this is the party position, and you are supposed to abide by that.
Really?
So it's all about a web of politics.
Okay. When you don't abide,
that swallow the issues that need to be highlighted.
Okay.
You know.
But Meshmu, at the end of the day,
so let me finish because he has asked me that question. So. Sometimes, and I agree with you, sometimes when we are asking for vote and we are in the public gallery, we talk a lot of sense, real sense, because we live in the same communities that we represent and we share into their problems and issues. But when it gets to this parliamentary political setup, you find it is like a lesson plan. You have a lesson plan. I'm a teacher by profession.
Teacher.
Yeah, so you have a lesson plan which you have to abide by and set exams against, according to. So that is the disconnect, my brother. Some of us feel like we are in a cage. You want to fly out and say it and do it and bring the revolution, but you're bound by those webs of political parties.
So City is asking, if you don't, what happens?
If you don't, you just look like you're a zombie.
You don't get the support.
You don't get the support.
You can't move
you're
the
not.
agenda.
Yeah, exactly. Like for example, Shiro started off saying, I'm one of those that really complained about the gender issue, the gender parity, the gender representation in the National Assembly's leadership. I come from the previous parliament where I was also a leader in a committee. And I was happy when the previous regime gave women very strategic committees. There are strategic committees in the National Assembly that controls certain aspect of budget. For example, if you asked me, the best person to have as a chair of health committee is a woman. Because there are many things that women are passionate about that we can execute through budget committee. Through health committee. But in this parliament, I came out very strongly, and I have no apologies because that's the truth. This parliament, women were put aside. They were not given the strategic departmental committees. We were given select committees. I'm a chair of a select committee. Yet I served in a departmental committee in the previous parliament. So I want to speak as a woman leader. Remember, I have been the chair of Kewapa for 2.5 years. And I want to speak as like a woman, but I'm also in that web of a political party. So I don't want to speak against my party leader's position. My party leader doesn't want to tell me exactly what he wants, but he wants also to play his politics and balance region and balance interest and balance money. No. Then I am there. I am in that formula.
Wanting to burst out.
Yes, wanting to burst out, but you can't because you are in that web. So my brother, in as much as we want to call it theoretical politics.
So Parliament cannot
practical
oversight.
Politics. No, Parliament
really,
can oversight.
The leader of the major political parties is either the president or the head of the opposition. Right?
Sure.
So if the president commands a majority, then this majority, he controls the majority, he controls their thinking.
The freedom to oversight is limited to the extent of the influence of the political parties. That is a problem.
Let's discuss this.
That is tyranny of numbers.
Let's discuss this as we continue into the next hour. You can stay with us for a couple of more minutes and then we take some calls.
Yes, because I still feel that I have not exhausted the reasoning behind one man, one shilling, and one vote. And why we are also asking for us in Kiambu County and other counties that are densely populated like ours to be allowed to have a local quota system in our national schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Local quota in the national schools.
Yeah.
Because Kiambu has how many national schools?
About 7.
Oh, well.
And my children from Githunguri, even have after achieving and
get.
qualifying to get to those schools, they don't get opportunities.
Conversation continues on Spice FM. Thank you for tuning in on KTN Home. Switch over to Spice FM or online on YouTube and Facebook. It's 9 a.m. Time for the news.